All right, so
All
here
right.
we are.
What's up, bro?
Man, I'm super excited. Hey, actually, you've never heard the like intro music, right?
never heard the
I'm
intro
still gonna working on the intro, so we're gonna try this out. All right, y'all. So, boom. So check this out. The V, right?
Yeah.
I love people just getting to like hear and get a taste of it.
Like we should freestyle right now.
Hey,
That's what I feel.
I ain't got bars, bro. That's all you. That's all
Like
you.
check 1, 2. I don't know. Should I get some free bars right now? 4 bars.
I get a record deal. Go for it.
Here we go. Yeah, D-Lo on the mic. I'ma go off the dome. I'm just flowing for my man Angel on the right. See, they've been doubting me for a long time, and I'm off beat, but I'ma bring it back. That's all I got right now. I'ma stop.
Ah, man, I appreciate you. Well, thank you for being on the show. Thank you all for tuning in soon once I sum up the courage to post this. But welcome to the Well Initiative, the location that is designed to pour into you and just help us be better men, better people of color, better individuals who love the Lord and are living in a world that is crazy. So, our goal is to talk about a fun topic in a short amount of time to give you something to glean on your ride to work or filling up your gas tank or talking to your boo thing or whatever it is. So, we got a fun topic today. So that's the tunes and super excited to have y'all join us today. So, yeah.
What's up, bro?
You ready for this, man?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm just meeting you, but I'm very excited about this new budding friendship.
Oh, man, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. What was it? Maybe it was a couple of months ago. The first time we met was maybe what do we say, like 5 months ago?
Yeah,
6
but
months.
I was out of town for a while.
Town, right?
Yeah.
I like literally knew. I like praise God that like I have a like more patience than I used to, because I was like, man, like I really feel like me and this guy's gonna like really hit it off, and I was eager to be like, oh, let's go grab coffee or whatever, and like link up and just talk shop or whatever. And just like vibe that day, but I was like, just play patient. Like, if he decides to make this his church home or whatever, like we'll see each other again. It'll happen when it's time to happen. And here we are, man.
Hey, shout out to that.
Literally summon up the courage to do something that we are passionate and aspirant about. And so we got a fun topic today, y'all. We have a lot of topics, and yet we landed on this one. And so I am super excited.
Me too. When you said the word fun, I was like, fun is open to interpretation.
Literally,
It's gonna be honest and transparent, though.
Literally. Just for clarification, y'all, we are not therapists. However, this conversation is about to be so therapeutic. So I just want to make sure we can differentiate and discern that for sure. But yeah, man, let's hop into this. Actually, before we hop into this, I didn't even introduce this, man. Y'all, my bad, bro. We're just going to hop in and assume that you know who we are because there's some qualified people. We are so unqualified individuals just talking and hoping that something resonates with people for sure. So this is my boy, DeAnJilo. He is a man of many talents. As mentioned, I have the pleasure and honor to have known him for 5, 6, 7 months. We're going to say 7 because we like the number 7, right?
For
sure. Or 5 because the number of grace, right? So
I need a lot of that.
Yeah, between 5 to 7 months, y'all.
Okay. We're still defining the relationship, so we don't know our anniversary yet. But yeah, let's say beginning of the year, we had first conversations, but I'd say the past few weeks, it's gotten more depth, and then we just have learned that some of our purposes and ways we want to impact the world are aligned. So
perfect.
Dope.
So like, we're very big individuals on like creating a safe space. And so what do you think individuals should know about you before they just assume that like we just gonna listen to this dude?
Yeah, well, in the context of this show and what we're talking about, one of my passions and that Angel resonates with is men's emotional health, and just like through our own personal journeys, just this idea of how society has not allowed us to really, or has pressured us to not know how to really process emotions outside of sexualizing things, making us angry, being allowed to be angry. Like those are kind of the things we've learned how to do. Because of that, we cope in maybe unhealthy ways. Yeah. And then also I think we're far less emotionally adept compared to women, right? So like you said, I'm not a therapist at all, but it's something that I'm passionate about. I put a lot of work in to try to work through that. And so anything I share is just from my own personal journey with that.
Amen. Yeah, that's literally the goal, man. I love it. Like, we're just two men out here trying to figure it out and pass along some lessons that hopefully bless people along the way. So, yeah, appreciate you for doing this with me, man. This takes a lot of courage to just do this stuff. This is not easy. Talking to a camera, talking to the mic, and all these things. But here we are, man. So, cool. Let's hop into it. So what are we talking about?
All right. So, actually, so the topic today is dealing with aloneness or loneliness. Like, how do you maneuver that? I ain't trying to put all your personal business out there, but me and him are both single, and we talked about our breakup experiences, and part of like just going through the season of being single again. You deal with this, and honestly, you can be in a relationship and feel lonely,
bro.
That's a whole nother episode, right?
A whole nother conversation. Yeah, but that is very true. Very true.
And then in our walks, it's just. There are sacrifices you sign up for sometimes, but it can result in the feeling of being alone, and then there's a difference between alone and loneliness because you start to put a negative connotation on being by yourself.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
that's something that I guess we're about to talk about.
Gosh, okay, all right. So, I think the safest thing to start off with is defining loneliness, right? So loneliness, we could.
Let's go to Google.
Where do I put my phone? Okay, you got it. Yeah.
Loneliness or aloneness? Which one do you want me to Google?
Let's do loneliness. I like that one. I think that's a very applicable word that people would use. Loneliness. Okay. We're literally looking up, y'all.
All right. So according to Google, sadness because one has no friends or company. The quality of being unfrequented and remote, isolation.
Whew, okay.
So that's interesting.
Yeah. So the words that stood out to me are isolation and sadness.
Sadness because you feel like you don't have company or friends. So it's a perception thing.
It's a perception of lacking, right?
That's really good. A perception of lacking.
Okay. So when you perceive that you lack something, all good. So when you perceive that you lack something, it's likely to cause a feeling of sadness for men potentially, right? Or just people in general. Okay.
And isolation.
And
I'm pulling up the definition of aloneness because I do think that there's an important distinction here. Aloneness, definition of aloneness is having no one else present. So there are contexts where, and this is where it's interesting, there's context where having no one present is a gift and a beautiful thing. Yeah. But you may perceive that as loneliness, maybe go the next step to feeling like some type of shame or isolationism, or like you feel like you're alone because people don't want to be with you, or maybe there's no one you enjoy being around, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that what I have been working through, because I am an introvert, I actually really enjoy my alone time.
Same.
But sometimes you get caught in, I don't have this, the perception of lack, right? I don't have that. And you start to associate being alone, not being with someone, as a bad thing. Which, and I'm not just talking about in a romantic relationship, friendships too, right? That's something that through my, like, I'd say in this season, maybe the past 8 months or so, that's something that I have been really wanting to change my perspective on, because I do think that when you feel that way, you make decisions that aren't as grounded as they need to be.
Yeah. It's so crazy how we as individuals, when you don't learn how to manage your emotions, they manage / control you.
Come on.
And it's so wild how, just going back to that sadness word, because, I would imagine there's a level of sadness or grief or discomfort when it comes to loneliness or being alone. And so we can differentiate the two, because it seems like alone is just the physical being of not being present with someone. Like right now, I'm not alone.
Right.
Here.
Right.
But loneliness is like a mental state of how your perceive like
no one understands me, no one gets me, no one has space for me. Like that's a perception, right?
Yeah. Okay. So kind of understanding like this definition. Man, we can go in so many different directions with this. Now we have an understanding of aloneness, and loneliness. How can we manage these things, right? Like, we could simply say, like, once you understand it, then you could confront it. And the difference between, confronting, a person versus confronting a feeling is that, like, one is tangible, one is intangible.
Yeah.
What do we do with this loneliness?
That's so
What
good.
can we do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what I have been unpacking is that, wow, I could go in so many different directions. But I think what I'm going to sit with is that the idea of being alone is just like what I've been needing to remind myself is that is actually a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's a gift, right? Like the same way we will think about companionship as being a gift, like those seasons where it's you and you can really sit with yourself and figure out if you like yourself. Like that is a beautiful thing. I have this song that I play to myself sometimes when I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling. I haven't had to play it recently, but it's this song called It's Good to Be Alone by Matt Corby. And it's not like a spiritual song, but the chorus, he kind of just says that. And it's just really like, because you don't really hear music that puts aloneness in a positive connotation, solitude.
True.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that for me, it's a matter of perception. It's also a matter of perceiving it. Like it might be easy for me to see the negative sides of it, but also reminding myself and being very intentional of reminding myself of the good parts of it in this season that I have,
Yeah. No, that's so good. I think, man, so something I was sitting on with loneliness is some way that let's see.
I know, it's so many directions.
Yeah. So, when I learned to appreciate loneliness, right there, that's where I want to go with this. I remember talking to someone. There's so many different directions. Okay, so y'all are getting to learn me in this. So as we go through this journey of the Well Initiative, understand that a well not has depth, right? So there's context that's needed for each layer, and as we continue to break down, y'all gonna get a lot. So I remember watching this sermon. Actually, it was Mike Todd back when I was watching his sermons. No disrespect to him, I don't want to get caught up in any of that stuff. Just acknowledging that there was a sermon that really caught my eye, and it was a sermon about relationship goals. I think this was a really big sermon for me during like the pandemic. I was just getting out of a relationship, can't go outside, can't, do what I normally would do, which is like get over somebody by getting under somebody new. I ain't perfect, y'all. And, I remember one of the sermons, the very first sermon he started off with is before you can find the person, you got to like find yourself and your purpose. And that just stuck with me, that it kind of evolved over the years, that now when I like mentor and coach and support people, something I would ask them when they struggle with things like porn and masturbating and drinking and drugs and whatever it is what does intimacy with yourself look like, right? Because I think that loneliness, see, landing this plane, y'all. So I think that loneliness is just a lack of knowing how to be intimate with yourself.
Good.
I think specifically us as men, right? Like when you think of being intimate with just being intimate, it's like, oh, like I gotta sexually stimulate myself, or I need to sexually stimulate someone else, right? Because if there's not that, then you don't know how to sit with the intimacy, being able to be intimate with yourself, right? And so, there's so many different ways of what intimacy with yourself looks like. I just think the first time I explored it was through that sermon where he was literally saying like, hey, challenge you to look in the mirror at yourself and say words of affirmation and confidence and speak life into yourself. And man, was that so uncomfortable to look at myself in the mirror and say nice things. I did not believe anything that came out of my mouth. And it was crazy because it was like, man, I could speak life into other people, but I could not speak life into myself. Why can't I do this thing? Right?
So good.
And that made me really sad.
But it's relatable. It's so good. I'm so glad you used the word intimacy just now, because that's really what it's about, right? When you're working through when you're working through the seasons of aloneness. And again, I reiterate, I'm not saying this just in the context of singleness. But for me, a heterosexual male, I've also been really learning. For me, with my partners, they would be my best friend. Like, so I would give them a lot. But I have been learning how I can actually give that to my friendships. That's good. Yeah, like, and maybe I have a friend who they're not gonna be as check all the boxes of like what my romantic partner would, nor should they. Right? Because again, it goes back to, well, also I should be able to sit with myself and be able to provide some of those things with me.
Yeah.
But I do think that one of the things that men don't do that I am learning to do is choose into intimacy and vulnerability with my friends. And also do the work to figure out, well, what do I need? Let me make sure I understand what I need. Because I'd have friends where I'd go to them and they didn't meet whatever I was looking for, primarily because maybe they were giving me advice and I just needed them to be like, yo, like, dang, that sucks.
Yeah.
But checking in with myself before I reach out to someone, this helps in a romantic relationship too.
Yeah, that's good.
This is what I need. Tell them, hey, I want to share this with you, but also this is kind of what I'm needing from you. And how, like, so it puts the work on you. And how, like, I've felt so loved and like supported. Because people are like, it's actually very easy for them. Like if you outline to them what you're looking for, and then just the gift of intimacy from that has been very beautiful. So yeah.
So then the first secret sauce is to this whole intimacy thing is learning how to love yourself before you love others. Right? That's biblical. We're not gonna go too much into the scripture today. We might. Who knows?
Who knows? Hey, it might be a sermon. Who knows?
Sermon. It might turn into a mini sermon. But the word definitely does tell us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. And if you can't find that space to love yourself, how can you love your neighbor? How can you love your friend? How can you love this future partner of yours?
And I like that you say well too, because it's like, think about it like you're a tank, right? And you want to be full. You want to be filled up.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, that was you. You titled it.
That was good.
But you want when you come out into the world, you actually want to be full. And so the gift of aloneness, those seasons of solitude, Jesus, so many. Jesus was fueled by his solitude time, right? His prayer time. So learning yourself to know, okay, what are things that are gonna feel like. We played basketball today. Like we were messing around. That is something that like that my tank feels like fueled from that. You know what I mean? So now I have something to offer. And I shared with you before. I was like, yo, like I'm an introvert. I've been socializing all day. I know that I'm losing my capacity. But we played basketball for like an hour, and I'm back. So part of, to your point, the first tool, which is learn how to love yourself. Part of learning, if we're going to be a sub point of that, is learn the list of things that are giving to you that fill your well, so that you can feel recharged and you have something to offer people.
Okay. So, all right. The first thing we're going to do is learn how to love ourselves by being alone with ourselves. And we can improve on doing that by exercising things that we enjoy doing on our own. That could be going to the movies, journaling, working out,
all of it.
Playing basketball, like you mentioned. Okay. So there's a lot of options.
Yeah.
Man, that's really good. And then let's say we conquer or check off that box, right? And obviously this is gonna be a step 1, step 2, step 3. It's like these are progressive, but we can all be interchangeable, right? So then like what would you imagine, whether you're in that season of being able to reflect on that now or you're getting towards that, but what does it then look like now that you've been able to appreciate solitude with yourself? How did you jump into that space to then wanting to, overcome loneliness by being with people, but not like feel sad if you're not around people, right?
Yeah. So I don't understand. Your question is... Yeah, I don't understand that question.
Yeah, I know. As I said it, I was like, I don't know if it made sense. Yeah. Because,
I think I kind of am getting what you're saying. Like,
the foundation was loneliness.
Yeah.
And we're kind of talking about, like, what are some practical ways, like, sitting with ourselves and learning to appreciate, like, our company,
That's a step.
when you invite people into this mix, how do you make sure you don't take backward steps? I think, if we go about it in the relationship component, right? You eventually find friends or a partner or companionship that you really fill you up. Like you love being around these people.
Yeah.
Let's say you're in a season where that person's busy, they get in a relationship and you no longer can be friends like that.
Been there.
Or you're in a relationship with this person and now you have to, learn how to unlearn that component of like loneliness. Like
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that might be the season I'm in now, but I would say that I also think that a passion and purpose really is something that, like, you know what I mean? Like, sure, like relationships and companionship and friendships and friend groups and all those things are very important to our survival. But like, why are we here, right? I'm here to do things to impact the world. Ideally, the hours I'm putting in is contributing to that, whether that's at work or the stuff I'm working on. That's another way of like fulfillment. And like, let's be real. What's the most attractive type of person to be around? Someone who's like living in their purpose. Yeah. Someone who's really like attacking the world and addressing things and like just really aligned with that or in the pursuit of that. I really think that when we're in that area, that like, you know what I mean? So I also think that part of that alone season is like getting in tune with yourself to the extent that you figure out, no one can answer the question why I'm here, right? But figuring out, what do I want to do? Like, I'm learning about myself and I'm learning how to fuel my tank, but fuel my tank for the purpose of serving the world around me. And that's just my spiritual belief, but you know what I mean? So I do think that, to answer your question, when you're maneuvering the changes of society and friendships, and I've had friends who we were really close and they got in a relationship and things change. And you do more than that because it's sad when things change. So give yourself space for that. But also like, I got my own doing, like, you know what I mean? And I know that through that, I'm probably going to meet other people who have similar purposes and passions, a la DeAnJilo meeting Angel. You know what I mean? That allow some other needs to get met and filled as we eventually, you'll get in a relationship, I'll get in a relationship, and things will also change then. Like, so you'll get kids, like things are always changing. So that's where the gratitude comes in. Like, appreciate where you are right now because it's not going to stay like this.
Man, and I love that you said that. It really makes me think of the concept of like lacking, right? Psalms 23:1 tells us, the Lord is our shepherd, I shall not want. And other versions say, I lack nothing, right? And it's just like loneliness feeds us that lie that we are lacking something. We're lacking community. Maybe we are lacking community. That's a thing that, there are steps to take to address that. And yet, there's this idea that we are lacking because there's something wrong with us that people don't want to be around us, or maybe the perception that we want particular people to be around us and they may not have the time, or they may be in another season, or you have to like grieve, this friendship or relationship, which, I actually was in a season not too long ago where I actually had to like break up a friendship or whatever. And I remember, me and this individual became like really close. But I just started to see like, man, like what you want out of life and what I want in life are not like, in alignment. And it's kind of making me resent you because I'd given this person a lot more credit than my discernment should have been willing to give them. And so I found myself resenting them and having bitterness. And I had to like sit with like, why am I upset? And it's because like I had this expectation for this person to be someone that they're not.
Yeah.
And so I remember when I had to like, cut off that friendship, the individual was like, hey, I'm disappointed because I feel like you're giving up on me. And, kind of broke my heart that the person thought that I was like breaking up and trying to end the friendship and distance myself, which to an extent that is true. And so like, I share with them, I'm very big on like, impact versus intent. Like I could say my intentions are this, but I also believe that good intentions are the road paved to hell. Yeah. Because everyone has good intentions, right? Even mass murderers have good intentions, right? And that doesn't make them right.
That's a take.
Right? Yeah. So it's just like, when you are able to practice humility, you don't focus on the intentions that you had, you focus on the impact. And so in that conversation, I spent some time with this individual, just like letting them know, like, hey, I am truly sorry that I've had that impact on you. I can't take away how this makes you feel. And I also want you to know that it is a lie. I will never give up on you. I will never abandon you. You'll always be a friend. And yet, the expectations of what I thought this was going to be is not what it is. And I have to let go. That's the key word. I have to let go, not give up. I have to let go of what I thought it was so I can make room. Exactly. So I can make room for what it is. Right. And so, like, when you think of that, like, loneliness, right, like, you're letting go of something that you thought you needed, that community, that companion, that person, so you can make room to love yourself, to find your purpose, to be ready for people who need to be in your life, to make room to be in different spaces and places to meet those people. Because,
that's so good.
you know, not everybody that you've done life with from day one are meant to be in your life forever. Like, people, so there's seasons for people, and not everyone was meant to be in, like, every single season, right? Yeah. So I think that's really, like, the root of it. Like, we really sit with that aspect of, like, man, it sucks that I really wanted this to be my friend forever. This was like my ride or die, a road dog, or whatever, the, like, best man at my wedding, whatever sort of, like, companionship you built with these people, and you got to let go of it because your expectations weren't met.
That's real.
And so it's like, you know, once you do that, right, going back to what you said, because you have your purpose, right, you don't make, well, that's kind of a tough one, because I think loving people is part of your purpose, or ought to be part of your purpose. Yeah. However, when you try to love people without having a defined purpose, that's where it gets tricky. Yeah. Because then you make that your, like, I guess you could say, like, your idol.
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, because what I hear you saying, and thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I think that what I hear you saying is, it's not like you're, like, done with that person. You needed to change things because you realized that your expectations were getting met. Yeah. Because you had a vision of where things were going to be going, or what you need for your inner circle to be who you want to be. You know what I mean? Because everyone, it's like tiers of, like, you know, there are people that I love them, they're great, but we have a different idea on, like, what success in life looks like from a moral standpoint, you know? Exactly. And so then we're going to be close to an extent. You know what I mean? But, like, so you're going to get less access to me than, like, maybe people who, you know, whatever, like, right?
Exactly.
So I hear you saying that's more so where you were, because you do have an idea of who you want to be, your purpose, how you want to impact the world. And so then you have an idea of, like, what type of people you are your community, right? Yeah. Like that, I mean, that's the tough and hard part of it. And Jesus picked 12 disciples. You know what I mean? Yeah. And look, we all know, like, they weren't cookie cutter clean. Like, he had some dogs in there, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and so it's personalities be made, but there was this aligned value and character outside of Judas. So actually, I don't know, Jesus, I got some questions for you, brother. But there is a sense about community, and it's a similar direction because of the mission they had. Yeah. So I think that those are tough decisions, and can personify aloneness and loneliness. But working through and reminding yourself, hey, I did this for this reason because I'm trying to get here. You know what I mean? And if I'm hanging on to this, I might not be able to have space for something else that will allow me to get here. Because I think here, and when I'm saying here, y'all, because I know some of y'all on audio, I'm pointing to the future. I know to get here, I need certain things to happen, or at least I hope. Maybe I'm wrong and I'll change my mind later. Who knows? But we're doing the best we can do. So that's good.
That's good. Okay, so man. So, like, we've identified loneliness. Yeah. Right?
In some ways to work through it.
To get to a place of, like, appreciating intimacy or loving ourselves. Yeah. We then processed what happens when we try to take the next step of inviting people into our lives. Yes. And if we have any, like, backtracks, or we have to, like, pivot based on whatever those relationships are. Is there anything else we missing on loneliness?
I feel like those are very important tools that people don't always get. And God, I'm going to remind everyone, I am not an expert. And sure, I sound very confident right now, but, like, intellectually, where your brain is at and where your heart's at, like, applying it with consistency is always a journey. And that's why I really enjoy having community who has a similar vision, because they can remind you when you're off. Yeah. Like, hey, bro, you've been journaling? Yeah. I'm like, no. That's real. Yeah. So That's why I think it's really important to have that. But to answer your question, nothing else is stirring in me. And I think we gave them a lot to dissect. So it feels good. How about you? You feel like you have anything else to add?
I feel it's great. I think we should leave them with like a question to like sit with. Because, one of the things that is so important, and I say this to a lot of people. I probably said it to you several times, but I know I say it like all the time. But I always tell people like, hey, I'm going to plant a seed and let it cultivate to produce fruit. So what's a good question we can leave them with to sit with and like marinate on and let it produce good fruit as they sit with it and like reevaluate it for themselves?
That's a good question. This one is kind of sassy, but it's kind of like, hey, if you don't enjoy being with yourself, why would anyone else? So what would it take for you to, and what needs to happen for you to actually enjoy being with yourself?
That's it right there. That hurt my feelings.
I know. I'm mad at myself.
It's like, do I like hanging out myself?
Do you like me?
Sheesh.
Sometimes, yeah.
Sometimes, right?
So, I mean, reflect on that. I think that's important. You need to enjoy yourself first because we want to be around light. We don't want to be around, like, salt and dirt, Like, sure, I'll be with you and sometimes in it, but at the end of the day, like, I want to be with someone who's adding to, and I want to be the person to add to. And some of that is the individual work you're doing by yourself. So, oh my goodness, yeah, that's fire. That's Holy Spirit right there.
That was it. Yeah, that was it. That wasn't sassy. That was stepping on toes because when you do the work, y'all, it is gonna be so worth it. So sit on that question, man. Thank you so much.
This was fun.
Appreciate you. This is a lot of fun. I can't wait to figure out what we talk about next, man.
Yeah.
That was fire. So we talked a little bit about loneliness, y'all. Super excited. Thank you so much for coming through, bro.
Thanks for having me.
But this was fun. So, y'all, thank you for coming through the Well Initiative. Appreciate y'all for checking in and tuning in with us. Yeah. The place where we pour in to you spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally to be better men, women, people living in this world and this earth. And so thank y'all so much. Y'all have a blessed one.
Peace.